Salubrious salutations to all you fine people, wherever you may be, and whatever you may be doing. I don't know if you're watching me right now, so I suppose you could knit while you do that and just listen to me, or run on the treadmill. So, since there's not a lot to look at here. But I think much has happened since the last time that I spoke on here. Where to begin is the hard part. Um, hmm. I'll begin with my cardiology appointment yesterday. So I took a milligram of Xanax because I wasn't feeling good physically, which was causing me anxiety. And just, that's what I did. So I get in the car, I start talking to the driver, just talking. And I was like, I don't have a doctor right now. My doctor headed for the hills, man, as soon as the coronavirus hit. He goes like, really? I go, yeah, whoever heard of a doctor being a germaphobe? And he said, well, who is your doctor? And I was like, his name was Joseph Cook. Uh, he used to work over there by Affinity Medical Center. It's like right down the road here on Amherst. And he goes, Joseph Cook? And I don't think he headed for the hills, man. He's in jail. I'm like, he's in jail? I was like, yeah, he's in jail. I'm just in shock. He was in jail. I'm like, well, what is he in jail for? And the guy's like, rape. So I'm like, really? Do you like know anything else? And he goes, oh, not really. So he drives me in there. It's not that short of a drive. And I get in the office. The nurse that's taking my blood pressure I said, the driver on the way in here told me that my old doctor's in jail, Dr. Joseph Cook. And she looked at me immediately. She goes, yeah, because medical community, like everybody knows everybody, especially if they're all part of they call them the Altman group for Altman Hospital. And I was like, what do you know about that? She's like, well, he's in jail there for sexual assault. And I'm like, seriously? Because, the driver just could be talking out his ass, but I'm talking to the medical people now. So I'm like, as y'all know me, I have a long history of trouble and miscommunication and bad dealings with the medical community. My cardiologist screwed so many married women that he finally found a husband that did not take it very well and shot him in the parking lot at Affinity Hospital and did a murder suicide on him. That was my cardiologist. That guy cardioverted me at least once that I remember, maybe twice. And so my cardiologist, I'm talking to this nurse that they do the preliminaries with the blood pressure and asking me questions and stuff. And I'm like, so wait a minute, you know that I went to see Dr. Cease, right? You know his story. And she's like, yeah. So that means my cardiologist is a womanizer and a sex addict, and eventually gets himself uh, involved in a murder suicide, him being the victim of murder. My primary caregiver is apparently a rapist. What do you get up to on the weekends, honey? And she didn't say nothing, man. I was like, you don't like beat people up or mug them or rob them or anything. Is there anything I should know about you? So, she laughs, she understands. Some people, you tell jokes like that, like about dark stuff. They're just like, they got that filter built in, that PC filter they don't have any spontaneity in them. So they're like, should I laugh at this? Should I not laugh at this? I can't imagine living like that. I don't. ever like research, rehearse, or do anything just to talk to you. So I cannot imagine living like that. I mean, everybody has to use a filter in certain situations, but not on obvious humor. You know, you don't have to say, hmm, should I laugh at this or should I not laugh at this? If how will laughing at this affect my social standing? So anyway, she laughed, and so this woman had come in there that I never saw before. That I assumed I didn't ask what she was. I assumed she was a doctor. I don't know. She introduced herself as Rose. I think I looked her up later, and I think she was Dr. Rose somebody. But they have like these nurse practitioners that are they have MDs, you know. So like if the doctor they work with can't see you for some reason, you can see them, and they they got the power of the pen. They can prescribe and stuff. So anyways, I'm talking to this Rose person, and I'm like, my doctor was Dr. Joseph Cook, and I just got told by two people that he's in jail for rape. And she's like, yeah, it's true, you know. And I'm like, I'm just running through, seen the guy 100 times, That's the guy that mismanaged my Xanax or alprazolam intake, dropped me 50% spontaneously. He would hike up my dose, just like, I'm going to put you on double the amount, you know. And then he would lower my dose randomly. He's the guy that was like, how are you doing with your Ativan use? And I'm like, I don't take Ativan, and he was the guy that I had all that trouble with trying to get a motor scooter when it still was still applicable to me, where I needed it and I didn't have aid workers who could do my bidding. So, you know, the whole time I'm suffering because I got like bum rides. I can't. I'm trying to use the electric bike, but it's really dangerous for me to use the electric bike because I can't get off the thing. As a matter of fact, I have a story where I try to get off of it and I trap my foot on this. There's like a brick ledge in a building that just happens to be foot level, and I'm just trapped there. And I got like a couple of options. It's like one of them is just to flat fall down, but I don't want to fall down on the bike. You have to picture a guy with one leg like this, the other leg swung over a bike and wedged in between this brick facade to where he can't move his leg, and he's standing on one leg. So I'm just getting tired there. People are looking at me. They're not really looking at me. They're just walking by. And I'm like, oh, I can flag one of these people for help. But I was like, well, there's a couple of ways I can play this, and kind of like just took a chance and pushed the bike forward and out of my way, and leaned it up against the building, and then like pulled my foot out of there, and I didn't get hurt. The bike didn't fall over. Things worked out. But it was just so ridiculous to be trapped like that because I got a hold of the bike. The bike weighs 100 pounds. I can't let go of the bike. The bike will fall. There's no guarantee that I won't fall on top of the bike because my foot's wedged like this in the side of Walgreens pharmacy. Just it had this weird brick facing where the bricks were like stuck out and my foot was wedged in there. So, anyways, I could have used a motor scooter at that time. It was dangerous for me to ride that electric bike around, but I still did it. I got the trouble with my right leg with the picker assist thing, and it was just hard for me to get my leg over the bike. I could get on the bike okay, but getting off the bike was another deal. That was always like, I don't know how I'm going to pull this off. I got to balance a 100-pound bike and swing this stiff ass leg over top of the bike, and not fall over. And anyways, so I always knew he's like a little bit off, but not like rapist off. But people are poker players. You don't never know what's going on behind blue eyes because no one knows what it's like to be the sad man or the bad man behind blue eyes. Who would tell you that? So anyhow, uh, she says that the charge is over uh, raping an 11-year-old girl. I ain't making no jokes about that because I didn't know that at the time when I made that joke. Uh, and sexual imposition, and they're asking any other victims to come forward. He was supposed to be arraigned on the 29th. He was held without bond until, not, what am I saying, the 29th? May 29th. Okay, he disappeared right around when the coronavirus hit, is when he just like went AWOL. And I started seeing uh, the hot Asian, Hispanic, exotic mixed doctor that was working with him. And he was just on like some kind of temporary leave that wasn't really a temporary leave. But this crime was alleged to have been committed the day after Christmas. And I tried researching it for you, and I just couldn't really find anything. So, um, you know, I can post an article if you want to read about it or you want to see what my doctor looks like. He don't have a mustache in the picture. He used to wear like a little limp, wimpy mustache. And it's kind of funny that I kept his identity secret for all this time. Dude's a freaking rapist, apparently. I mean, they were investigating him for a long time, and this like had, I think, FBI involvement. I mean, it was a big deal, and they're thinking, that sexual predator. That's why they're like asking other victims to come forward, and you don't do something. If the guy has not been tried yet, he got arraigned, which I believe means, I should have looked it up ahead of time, but I don't research. But I believe that means when you get arraigned, you get arrested, then you get arraigned. When you get arraigned, that's when your trial date is set. So the man could be innocent for all I know. But this is just the stuff that I was being told. Guilty until, or I'm playing guilty until proven innocent. It should be the other way around. But it's not looking good for him, and he's in jail. So, um, the weird part is like I can't find any article past May 28th about anything about the guy. I just did a preliminary Google search, but I couldn't find anything about the guy. So yeah, I sure can pick him. You know, Hopefully my next doctor is not a serial murderer or anything like that. I mean, but yeah, if he did do that, he's capable of anything. So, you know, it's not like people that do that kind of thing. It's not like they don't just wake up one day and want to do it, or they don't just like fall in love with 11-year-old girls or anything like that. They're sick people that that's like a pathology. It's like a sick part of them. So, you know, it is possible that you can have those sick feelings and not act on it. But, anyways, so that happened. The cardiology appointment went fine. It was longer than it was necessary because she was very chatty and there was no one in the office. The office had one other person in a huge waiting room and one other patient left. And none of the doctors were there. Dr. Gross, Dr. Markle, and another doctor that I couldn't pronounce. Now, after I was talking about, like, man, my cardiologist is this, and she said, well, everybody knew about that. That was like an open secret. Like, that guy would fuck any woman. She didn't use those terms, but he was like, he was like, he was just like going around with all these women, and we were actually warning about him that it was unsafe behavior. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. This is what the woman said. It has the ring of untruth to me. Like, a doctor that's working over me, you ought not to be screwing so many women because it's dangerous. You might piss somebody off. But anyways, guy was clearly a sex junkie, and he had 13 children, six of which she explained were his own, two of which were adopted, and I think it was 12 children. It was a whole shitload of children, but six of which were his own, two were adopted, and the other ones were from previous marriages. They were, I believe, the woman's children. I don't know. She did not. She wasn't explicit about it. And I didn't want to ask too many questions because I'm in a doctor's office. The main goal is being at a doctor's office. Besides getting help, is getting the fuck out of there. So, um, anyways, I'm very confused at this point, because I just found out that my doctors that I've gone to for 5 years, so it's just I'm running through all my interactions, with the guy, and just like I've seen the guy hundreds of times, and uh, yeah, dramatic moments with him, like when I went in there and withdrawal and shit, was shaking. He's like, "Oh, your hands aren't shaking too bad." He's like, "Hold out your hands," and they were shaking like maybe like that. He goes, "Oh, they're not shaking too bad." That one time, it was actually uh, one of the nurses that saved my ass that day because I had run out of uh, Xanax and was going into withdrawal. And she was like, "When can you come in here today?" Because she realized I was too long. She understood how dangerous uh, with that kind of withdrawal is off of benzos. So she was like, "Can you come in here today?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, if it definitely." Because at this point it's starting to hit me real bad, and I had already like literally shit everything out of my body, including whatever brains I had left. And I'm like, definitely, I'm like fully messed up. And she's like, "How about 5 o'clock?" I'm like, "Don't you guys close at 5 o'clock?" She says, "We're gonna stay open just especially for you." You know, 'Cause I had been off it. I was in cold turkey for a while. Like my body was doing things like that, like just like you know, yeah. So, um, all those memories were just running through my mind, thinking about that, and like, the, yeah, it was just a shock. It was just a shock. But so she starts, the Dr. Rose person. She starts talking and bragging up this guy named Markle. Because I said, "Man, this, like I said, the C guy is a womanizer, sex junkie." I'm like, my primary caregiver, and this is all of the Altman Group people. My primary caregiver is a rapist, and I'm like, "What's next?" And then she starts bragging up this Dr. Markle guy that I have an appointment for in 6 months, which I was happy to hear. And because I don't want to go in there just don't want to go in there. I just want to make contact with him, make sure I can get my blood thinners. So she starts bragging this guy up and bragging this guy up, and I was like, "Look, I'm not a member of PLM." She paused for a minute. I'm like, "Patients' lives matter. I mean, every group has bad people in it. There's bad people in every segment of society and in every profession. It's like you don't have to brag the guy up. I'm happy to see him. I'm sure he hasn't killed anyone." She's like, "No, no, I just wanted to tell you that, that he's really good, especially with the electrical, 'cause your body works on electricity, whether you know that or not, and synapse gapses in your nervous system. That's why they can like put platinum wiring in you, which they've done to me before, and move your hand for you with electricity." So, anyways, he's like, he's good at the she said he's good at the electrical side of the workings of the heart. I just wanted to explain that to you. So, but PLM should is actually probably a more viable group than BLM. Honestly, how many of you people have been abused at the hands of doctors, or pilled up, or hooked on things, or had literal, honest to God, malpractice type suits that you just like didn't pursue, like me. So, a long conversation with the lady. She's like, you're 52 years old, and I'm 49, and women are so sensitive about their ages, you know. So she's like, it's kind of irritating me because you're talking about yourself like an old man. And like, why are you doing that? And I said, well, uh, because I was operated on at the age of 18, and you know, had full spinal reconstruction and had spinal tumor when I was 16. And she goes, oh, okay, say no more. And I said, if I took my shirt off and showed you my back, you might see 3 foot of scar tissue on me. So she's like, yeah, probably if they did all that to you. And we were talking about the arrhythmia thing. She's like, you seem like you have a long history of arrhythmia. Have you ever thought of ablation? And that ablation, if you don't know, is a thing where they run a tube up into your heart, and they literally kill certain nerves in your heart that they feel are responsible for your heart misfiring and going into arrhythmia. And Terry Francona, the manager to the Cleveland Indians, had an ablation because he didn't have any choice. They couldn't get his heart to go back into rhythm any other way. So I'm like, no. I said, my body's been cut open enough. I was like, I'm not having any more invasive procedures if I can help it. And she said, oh, I'd have that done in a minute. You know, like that's, I don't know, maybe that's a permanent fix for some people, but what if they fuck it up? It's your freaking heart. You know, what if they have a bad day? That's what I always think about, you know, with like surgeons and doctors and stuff. It's like, what if they had a long night the night before, you know? Or like, I had a dentist that had the shakes because he had DTs when I was a little kid, Dr. Schiavone. And my sister went to him too, and I'm not just making this up because she caught him. He had like a little flask, and she caught him like fortifying himself in the office. So you know he would get out, you know, the little hook scraper thing for scraping off tartar, and it'd be like, as a little kid, I'm like, I was really nervous, and he got my gums a couple of times from shaking from the DTS, and he'd be like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Otherwise, he was a nice guy. He was just an alcoholic, and a pretty bad one. So, um, yeah. So that you can say I had a dentist that was a severe alcoholic, as well as a long list of things. So, anyways, I'm saying that PLM is a more viable group than BLM as far as I'm concerned. We got more uh, concrete, serious proof in the form of our physical beings than people that go around pretending they're telepathically reading white guys' minds and saying like, "Aha, you did that because this guy is a different color than you." It's like, you don't know that unless the guy is like, "Come back, nigger," and like openly, you know, using racial slurs or making fried chicken jokes or what the hell ever. You don't know that. You know, like I said, even the Chauvin case, the guy could just be an equal opportunity sadist. He also had a history with that guy because this is something people don't know about even fairly large cities. Um, is that the cops and the criminals get to know each other. They're not strangers to each other. They've, you know, a guy with a long rap sheet like George Floyd, and the Chauvin guy was a veteran police officer. They had a long history with each other. They knew each other. So he could have been doing that stuff over personal reasons that had nothing to do with the man's color and something to do in the past, you know. So you don't know what's going on in that guy, even in a severe case like that, where clearly the officer is at fault and committed a heinous act endangering that man's life. Though what really killed him was a combination of things. You know, they all put it on because he's on video with his knee on the neck. They all put it on that guy, but really, they did not follow proper police procedure and flip him on his side. One of the cops there suggested, why don't we flip him on his side? Chauvin guy was running the show because he was the veteran cop there, so it is kind of his fault for not flipping him on the side. But it wasn't the knee on the neck that killed him, because like in jiu-jitsu, you, you pass out pretty darn quick if you get pressure. You know, if you get like a rear naked choke or something like that. And that guy was getting pressure put on him for 9 minutes. He was slowly suffocated because he was flat on his stomach with heavy ass officers on his back, and they did not follow procedure and flip him on his side, which is a proper police procedure. They know about that shit. But what I'm saying is, like, all this civil unrest and this BLM stuff and all this stuff, it's all based on telepathy. Medical stuff, I can show you parts of my body that were fucked up because doctor fuck ups. I can give you actual empirical scientific proof that Dr. Dumb fucked me up, as probably many of you can. Or like, I, you probably have proof. Like, yeah, a doctor started giving me this benzo shit and didn't tell me what it was and how dangerous it was. I just started taking it because he's a doctor. He's supposed to know shit. He's supposed to know better. So, anyways, now that I have belabored the living hell out of that point, let's move on to other things that happened. Um, my new handyman, the 6'3", great big guy, came in here and fixed the ceiling, but she took a shower this morning. The drip is not intense, but the drip pan is not big enough to cover the area. So a couple of days ago, water was dripping through the hole in the ceiling, which is cool. That's where you want the drip through, is in the already made hole. That's maybe the low point in the ceiling or whatever. But the hold on a minute. Okay, you get to listen to my phone call. So I can't. Hello. Hi, Laura. I was just wondering if I was on the schedule today. Yeah, that'll be fine. What time? What time? Okay. Thank you very much. I hope you have a good day. Yeah. Bye bye. I'm sorry about that. That was the aid worker people, but I don't have any choice. I can't cut the video and splice it together with Movavi because I wiped out the Movavi program when I panicked and reset my computer. That's the proper term, by the way. Is resetting your computer is when you just totally wipe everything on your computer. And it's like it's like the day it was born. So, um, anyways, so my handyman comes in, and the board that was hanging from the ceiling, and I'm going to try to show you. And this time, I'm not going to turn off the computer. Oops, sorry about that. It's not very professional. So, anyways, you can see that. You can see it's still. I'm going to try to move this around without making this too much noise. And without, like, showing, yeah, showing the nipples too much. Because it's cold in here, for one thing. My room is, like, totally freaking rearranged. And while I'm moving the computer around, be prepared for some more unnecessary noise. I got, like, a condom on top of it. But I figure I'm stuck in this room anyway. I got extra money. There's more extra money apparently coming from the government. So that over there is with the baggie on it, is um, a 58-inch TV that I bought for $278 new, because I'm cool like that. Hopefully that wasn't too noisy and all. I don't know what it's gonna sound like, but the sad part is like I came home from my doctor's appointment. I had all that weird news. I had all this energy and relief. I had just successfully pulled this giant TV out of a box and got it set up and ready to go. Super good mood. It's like I'll do a video because I got some interesting things to talk about. And when I said, I bought this after 7 minutes and spun the computer around. I clicked the button and turned the thing off. So I essentially was very interesting only to myself for like an hour, and then I'm done with the video and I find out like the red light's not on. When did that happen? It had to happen when I was moving the computer around. So I made another video and I threw my head across the room in the video. I'll just put it up for the hell of it. I mean, who cares? And I was like, and the video was so good. It was like me at my best. And it's like, it's just gone. I was like, all that brilliance, experience, and wisdom, and eloquence, and oratory masterfulness just off in the ether. Ether? I want my teeth back. Ether for no one to appreciate. And I didn't say things like ether for ether either, man. My pronunciation was on point. I'm supposed to pick up my teeth on the 16th here, so hopefully they're comfortable enough I can wear them so I can speak more betterly. So, anyways. So, yeah. The guy that delivered, they told me that I need like signature confirmation, right? The guy that delivered the TV fucked up in so many ways, and thank God I was home when he delivered the TV, because I guess it doesn't matter. I mean, I'll talk about that later. But the TV is not in any box disguising the fact that it's a big honking giant TV. People love big honking giant TVs. I figured, I had a 50-inch TV that I gave away to the pocket maniac that lived upstairs. So, once you go back, you don't go black. Once you go big on TV, you don't go smaller. So I had to go bigger. So this is a 58-inch TV as opposed to a 50-inch TV. So, but the guy delivered it. He just threw it on the porch, upside down, mind you, as far away from the door as possible. And I saw the truck out there, and I looked out the window. I was waiting for him. I was like, is he gonna come back to the door and like get my signature like they told me over the email? What's going on here? And then finally I got tired of waiting for him to come back out, so I got on the porch, and I look at the guy, and I was like, yo, and the guy looks at me like just a cursory glance and speeds off. And I'm like, how the fuck am I gonna get this gigantic thing in the house? I found a way. Just pushed it across the floor, or I should say across the cement of the porch onto the little mini ramp for the wheelchair guy. Just kept pushing it into my house. This was like an hour before my appointment. If he delivered it like a little bit later, there's just going to be a giant TV sitting on my porch for a couple hours in broad daylight where everyone could see it. And if anybody wanted it, they could just pick it up and pretend it was theirs. Throw it in a car. It's not too far from where my garbage is, where people run by and scavenge stuff out of the garbage. They could scavenge themselves a brand new 58-inch TV. So I wasn't too happy about that. I don't know if the guy was just lazy. He had places to do. He had to piss real bad. He was a germaphobe of the Howie Mandel level, where he didn't want no contact with nobody, and I wasn't signing for nothing, and he wasn't getting nowhere near me. But technically, he is supposed to help me, according to the email, put that TV in my house, and that was his job. So that's what I was expecting. That's not what I got, but I had like an hour beforehand, and I'm like, oh, how can I not unbox this? So I took pliers and I ripped out all the staples and I just disassembled the box because I looked at the instruction and it says you need two guys to lift the TV out of said box on each side. And I'm like, fuck that. I am ruining the box and then just getting it out that way. So I just had ripped all the heavy staples out the side of both box, cut the bottom with the plastic, took off the styrofoam, slid it out sideways, picked it up because it only weighs 31.1 pounds and my air conditioner weighs at least 70, and set it on these two little stands that are almost level. They're almost perfectly level. They're only off by like 2%. Um, so, uh, and then I was like, now I got to get dressed really fast. But I wanted to see it. I just bought it. I just got it. I wanted to see it, see what it looked like, see what it was like. I didn't plug it in, but I got it ready for when I come home from the cardiologist. And like I said, you live alone enough, you learn how to do things, you learn self-sufficiency to where you can figure out how to do things like that. You can figure out how to roll a couch. You can figure out like you have to, so you do. You know, it's like my brother when he was living alone after my folks died, and he started messing with the furnace. And I was like, oh my god, he's gonna burn the whole house down. It turns out the dude has natural born savant like technical abilities. He fixed the water at my niece's house a couple of days. I drug like 100-foot hose that she had given me for the garden when I had a garden. But of course, Gerald, my lovely landlord, would not turn the water on even for stunningly beautiful women, and he's married, so unless he's a bearded fag, I knew better than to ask him to turn the water on for me. If he's not going to turn it on to the 6 foot tall goddess and the 38-year-old hottie, he ain't going to turn it on for me. That's just a given. So that's that's maybe that's just the way I think because I don't get no sex, but and he's was in his 40s at the time. He looked like he had enough testosterone that might factor in, but yeah, I didn't even try. I bought attachments and would try to like hook it up to the spigot in my kitchen and then run it out the bathroom window, and then I could water the garden that way. The problem was none of those attachments could deal with the force of the water, and they just pop up and pop off, and water would go everywhere, and then water that was in the hose trap would spill all over the place. So I only did that a few times because I got the hint at not being a complete idiot. I got the hint after a few times that it wasn't going to work. Um, so, anyways, uh, okay, I did really good at keeping track of what I was, my line of thought, but I just failed for the first time. It's not too bad. After 38 minutes, it's not too bad. It's pretty good for me. Uh, but, anyways, I was talking about self sufficiency and doing for yourself. And I figured out a way to water the garden, which involved gallon jugs of water in a couple of few buckets and pouring the water down 15 feet into these buckets. And, it was laborious, and then carrying the buckets out and like just my legs were pretty bad at that point, but I could walk a hell of a lot better than I can now. So carry these buckets of water over to where the garden was and just like just throw them. I wouldn't like go through with a watering can because I'd fall over for sure. And had a good crop of tomatoes just one year, and then everything got overgrown back there, like I said. And the plants don't get sunlight; they don't survive. There are raspberries back there that my niece wanted to check on, and a kiwi plant. And a kiwi plant, like they're like a vine, and it's like it's thriving, but they take a couple years to yield fruit. So I don't know. I don't obviously not too mobile and don't get back there to know these things. So, anyways, let's try to bring this back to some kind of semblance of uh, digressionless linear thought. So now it's a phone call that screwed me up, honestly. So I got a plan as far as the ceiling. I got this new giant box. So uh, handyman, giant handyman Willie, I can buy a box cutter today. Uh, Redo the ceiling. I'm going to buy 3 dish pans. I'm going to cut them down to size and tape them all together and have a larger area to catch what little dripping is going up there. These are all temporary measures until I get the house in some kind of semblance of order, because it's a freaking disaster area. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's crazy. So, but I have to get. I mean, I incentivized him by dropping $40 on him for doing 3 things: uh, trying to fix the ceiling, picking up a prescription, and carrying a bag of garbage out that had like heavy stuff in it that out to throw out. So that's pretty for $40 pay. That's pretty good. So so he's incentivized. Now what I would want is for like him to get over here for like hours, so I would have his services for like a full day, and then drop a C note on him on top of the 40, you know, and then I can get this place squared away, because I cannot. Once the ceiling got fixed, obviously there was crud all over the floor from the ceiling falling apart, and it's not easy, and it hasn't been swept or cleaned in here at all. So I took a day and I cleaned this before I got the TV. In preparation for the TV, I got this place cleaned up. Not quite spotless, but cleaned up really good. And, a lot of moving around, lifting, carrying, sweeping with a broom, picking out stuff that the sweeper won't pick up. I mean, it was a freaking mess. The next day, I hurt so damn bad just from doing that I took 4 Neurontin in the morning and 3 in the afternoon, and my knee like ballooned up. So I can't do this stuff for myself. I would, believe me, I would. It's cheaper, and I prefer doing things myself. But yeah, so I didn't do nothing. That was a Saturday when I did all that shit. I didn't do nothing on Sunday but mess around with my desktop and try to customize my desktop and listen to music and look at ads on eBay and stuff. It was laid around high off my ass on Neurontin, and I think I only took a couple of volume, because Neurontin intensifies the effect of volume anyway. So, but Monday I was good. Monday I was okay, and then I got the TV, and so I'm wrestling with the TV and fighting with the TV because the guy didn't bring it in the house, and I'm moving around, pulling staples, get all that stuff I described before. And so my knees tweaked again today, and on my right knee with the Baker's cyst, and it hurts. And I took, before I started this video, I took 1 Neurontin and 1 Valium, because it stressed me out a bit listening to the dripping. It was dripping in the pan, I believe, but I don't know. Uh, it's got to be dealt with by the landlord, but I don't want him in here until I get this place looking better. I don't want him in here at all. But this is going to continue to be a problem. It should have been fixed a long time ago, of course, but it's going to continue to be a problem. That's why I have to have a TV condom for in case water comes down. So every time I don't watch the TV, I got to put a cover on it. Not that cover. That's just the cover that came in the box. I just got the TV yesterday. I have to make something waterproof, I'll probably just duct tape a bunch of cut up garbage bags together and make a TV condom. And yeah, I like that phrase. So um, the other day I watched porn that was so good I had to use a TV condom. But anyways, uh, baseball season's coming up, July 23rd. So, you know, as I have said, I have paid for, I had automatic payment set up for the Major League Baseball season, and they give you like 3 days to cancel it, and then you can't cancel it. And it was during the Corona thing, so I actually like knew that I needed to cancel it, that they weren't going to play baseball, but I thought about it too late, and so that's $100 spent. But they're going to play a 60 game baseball season, so I woke up this morning. I tried to find some nice, calming Gunsmoke episodes on this smart TV. I don't know if you know what a smart TV is, but I guess you hook it up to the. Well, I did. You hook it up to the internet, but it was. I have to pay to watch shows from 1955 apparently. And they only had like 3 seasons on offer. So, anyways, uh, Nia's is just not gonna have it. It's not. It's like you may want to work. Spirit is willing, but the knee is fucked. You may want to do this stuff and you may want to do that, but yeah. It's one thing I didn't mention about the heart doctor is they're putting me on a new medication. But here's the key about the medication: is the medication you only take it when you know you're in arrhythmia and it's not going away. And then she said, you feel yourself go into AFib, you take this pill, and you lay there and you don't move, and you try to relax and see if your heart can chemically be put back in the rhythm. I had never heard of the drug. No drug they've ever tried on me has ever worked as far as putting me back in the rhythm. The only thing that's ever worked is bzz. So they always fuck around and waste time doing it. And I'm like, just get to the shocking. It's like, it's not going to work. I already know it's not going to work. I'll just get to the shocking. I hear the pitter patter of little brontosauri up there. So yeah, that means could be a bath in the offing, which a bath means water sitting over that leak. That's kind of a big deal. So yeah, TV does need a condom, but it's not where the TV is not where the low point of the ceiling is. So I feel kind of like it's safe where it's at. I just have to take precautions when I'm not watching it. Cover it up. If I'm watching it, obviously I'm going to be awake. I've actually lived through this circumstance before. It's why I don't want anybody living above me. I lived in another place where I had a garbage bag set up in a 31-inch old time box TV, which they actually called 31 inches, a big screen TV back then, where I'm like, okay, I can hear water. And then I would scramble and I'd get garbage bags and throw them on top of the TV because the TV could only be in one spot in that old apartment. That's the apartment I lived in. That was like from the 1800s. It's the one that had the separate hot and cold spigots, you know. And so when you wash your hands, you just turn both of them on and you go from hot to cold back and forth like that. So that building was ancient, and yeah. So I have to contact that guy. I want to get in a place where there's nobody living above me. I don't have to hear any of this fucking noise, and I don't have to worry about people fucking up, uh, or just things going bad. Because sometimes it's not their fault. Shit gets worn out. It goes bad. Sometimes it is their fault. Like with the remember the Amazonian woman when I was talking about the hot woman and the 38-year-old. The 38-year-old was woohoo, and she just left a drip, and she was aware of the drip, but she just left the drip behind her toilet. All they had to do was put like a pan or a bucket underneath the toilet or whatever would fit to catch this drip, but she did not. And gradually, that's why that one panel just disintegrated and came down in a big crash. And I believe it was right before I was supposed to have that one test where they inject you with isotope radiation, and it was like 2:30 in the morning. And after that, I could not. After that woke me up, I could not go back to sleep. And I ended up canceling the appointment, which I had canceled it about 4 times. All told, I don't know which time that was, because you can't go to sleep with something like that going on, because it could be a pipe and it could be like a major 911 catastrophe where the landlord would have to come out here literally at like 4 in the morning and shut the water down to the whole building, because a burst pipe, this shit happens, like burst pipes and shit like that happens. So that's why the one time when the drug addict squatters were up there, I knocked on the door and I was like, I know you're in there. I just want to know, is it a drip? Or is it a leak? Did you spill something? I got to know what's up so I know it's not a pipe. And they wouldn't answer me because they were hitting the pipe. So that's, um, yeah. In the video yesterday that I made that was so, by my standards, good. I don't know if it was good in general, but I was like maximum energy. I remembered something funny that I might as well throw onto this because I don't know. I'm just not into, just really not into it. But this morning, but this is something I had forgot about. Now y'all know my dad, just like y'all know me. So I had a cousin named Elaine that was what they used to call back in the day retarded. I think the proper term is special needs nowadays, because calling people retarded hurts their feelings. It hurt her feelings because she was smart enough to understand. She was high functioning. She was on the upper levels of um, the IQ scale. You know that in that classification thing. So she knew what was up. She knew she was different. She knew she wasn't like everybody else. She knew that kids made fun of her for being stupid, and they used that word retard. And you know, it's not that she was stupid. It's just she was developmentally, however that happens. However that happens. She actually, I never considered her stupid. You know, she was just lots of times she could be very perceptive, shockingly so. I remember like her brother was like ashamed of her, and he explained. Um, this is just crazy, but he explained her special needsness on his mother falling down the steps when she was pregnant with her. He felt there had to be an explanation behind his sister. Anyways, his sister was not small, and whenever my dad, the killer, would come over there, because I would like spend summers over there as a kid, and she was older, and she was good sized, but she was always happy to see him, and so she would go over to him and say, "Hi, Uncle Pete," and give him a big hug, pick him off his feet, and spin him around and set him down like a little girl. And the sight of it was fucking hilarious to me. He did not enjoy that. He was just like, good Lord, is she strong? It's like she could really hurt somebody if she wanted to. And I was like, of course, your mind would go there. They're hurting people right off. But, you know, she, she could have literally picked him up, carried him off into the sunset in her arms, like in an officer and a gentleman, and saying, "The lift is up where we belong, where the eagles fly on my heart." However that damn song goes, it's definitely too high for me to sing. But I mean, it was crazy, and she would do it all the time. She would do it at like family reunions. She really liked my dad, and would like pick him up off his feet. My dad, his weight, he was 5'11", and his weight would vary from like 170. I would guess him at 175 to 200, depending upon how much he liked eating or how busy he was. But it was just so funny, and you couldn't laugh. And laughing at my dad was never a good plan. So you're just like, when she did that, she was always, "Hi, Uncle Pete." Yeah, I never really got to the reason behind why his name was Paul, but everybody called him Pete. His dad's name was not Paul, so it wasn't to differentiate him from his dad. I don't know if there were a lot of Pauls around, like there are so many darn Michaels around that you get to come up with a different name. I always assumed, and maybe this is like my memory, like way back in the day that I heard this, that he was nicknamed because he was called Peter Rabbit sometimes by my one uncle that whipped me that one time. One time. Um, he was always called Peter Rabbit, so I think they called him Pete. Was like a derivative nickname from Peter Rabbit because he was fast as a rabbit because they were all country people and he was super fast, especially with a knife. So they called him Peter Rabbit, and then it just got shortened to Pete. That's just a guess by me because my one uncle did his brother did call him Peter Rabbit from time to time. But why his name was changed from Paul to Pete? His middle name was Raymond, so his middle name wasn't Pete. So I don't know. I still don't know. But yeah, I know I was Pete's boy until I was 20 because I was not particularly memorable. He was not forgettable. He was seriously don't give a fuck. Like I said, he told a cop like, yeah, like I think I told that in the other video when he ran through those crowd of people. He's like, cops like, you can go to jail for that. He said, yeah, I'd be in jail, but they'd be dead. He did not give a fuck. He was just, and he had this, like I said, he had this funny way of like walking where he'd like saunter up to complete strangers, man, and just start bullshitting with them. He was really good at that. Everybody remembered him wherever he went. And he had a shirt one. He had a car battery blow up on him once, and it hit his shirt. And it put holes all in his shirt. He just walked around with that shirt. And the shirt had like holes like all through it, almost like a net shirt, like they used to wear back in the day. But it was like a do-it-yourselfer net shirt. He didn't care how he dressed, what he looked like, what he drove. He drove the shittiest looking station wagon for years. My mom, who was a really humble person, was embarrassed by the sight of it. It had a very powerful motor in it, but it was just a shitty looking station wagon. But he didn't care. He didn't care about anything. He was just out there. You know, and like I said, like the one time he just like intimidated. The one time I got beat up at school, it's one of the times I liked him the best. Is he intimidated the living fuck out of the vice principal who was making light of his son getting beat up, and his face, my face was all lumped up and shit. I was a mess. I had lost actually enough blood to where I had a blood bib thing going on. I had already been cleaned up by the time he saw me and stuff like that. But my dad just looked at him once and said, "I don't think it's too goddamn funny in a Catholic church to this guy." This guy's face went white. I don't know. I wasn't looking in his eyes, but he must have gave him like, "I'll skip rope with your fucking intestines, dude," type of look. Because after that, there wasn't much talking. And he just took me home, and we didn't have any conversation about it because I got the shit beat out of me. Like, I would have been killed or hospitalized if there was nobody there to pull that guy off of me because he went psycho on me. He was kicking me in the head and shit. To the point where my brother was like, I went through some depression, and maybe I got CTE from it. You can get CTE from just like one concussion if it's a bad one. But I was all fucked up. But my brother was like, maybe you're like this, because that guy kicked you in the head like that. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe just life sucks. Yeah, I was in that teenage depression thing where I saw no future for myself. And yeah, I was right. my, my future turned out to be real bleak. It actually turned out to be a lot worse. And I was like, I would tell my young self, like, you're being a whiny little bitch, man. You got no idea what you're in store for. Get out there and do something, man, while your legs work. But, I had that spinal tumor growing in me at that point. I think I was like 15 years old or something like that. And I was 15 years old when that guy nearly killed me, who was 18 years old. Um, I do remember that part of it. But anyway, um, so the whole point being, or me starting into that, is just to tell you that thing about that I had forgotten about my special needs cousin, like manhandling my dad like he was a little girl. It's like one of the most dangerous, literally one of the most dangerous people in a whole city. I mean, like there was a guy that worked for the what served as the local mafia here. That was his brother that broke actually shot a guy in the kneecap. But he was a enforcer for a bookie and scared to death of my dad. My other uncle that was a serial killer. He didn't want nothing to do with my dad. Never even saw the guy. He told both them guys, man, you come around here, you're gonna come around here once, and that's it. You know, you're gonna disappear. And my dad had a bunch of guns and shit. But when he was growing up, that's why, like I've said before, that's why he turned into what he turned into. Was his brothers were all sadistic and bigger than him because he was the runt at like 5'11". So he got tired of getting beat on at an early age and learned like to get really good with a knife and like to really throw down to the point where like I will not only hurt you, I will put you in the fucking hospital or the ground at a very young age. And of course, you've heard all those stories, but that's why he was like that. So the idea of like literally one of the most dangerous people in a whole city being picked up by, and I'm going to use the word, and we're going to pretend it's the 70s again, by a retarded girl, and swung around and then set back down. It's just too funny. Um, yeah, you get a drink of coffee. And the video yesterday was much better, I assure you. But yeah, if I could just get this knee fixed, man, just get this knee straightened out. I did take a walk. I hadn't taken a walk for a long time. But today, or Sunday, when I took the 7 Neurontin all told throughout the day, my knee was already fucked from cleaning the room the day before. But I was like, I walked on it anyway, and I took a walk in the morning, and I was able to successfully walk what I would call my usual distance. You know, at first I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I haven't walked anywhere in like a long time, and my legs are fucked up. I felt like I needed to do it because the next day I had to go to the cardiologist, and that stresses me out, and I felt like I needed to get outside because I don't get outside. So, um, yeah, there's always stuff I don't remember like that. It's I led a very weird existence. There's stuff my brother didn't really know about, like um, something made a noise. This thing he plugged in. My brother didn't even know about that one story where I was riding in the back of a truck when it had no back. I think my dad felt like he had too many kids and he wanted to get rid of them, so he let us stand up in the back of the truck when it had a bed. But I rode in the back of the truck before he built the bed for it. Well, excuse me. Um, you know how you see a semi and it doesn't have the trailer on it? Well, this was like a big board. Would you be quiet? I'm trying to talk. Whatever you're doing, stop it. This was like a big board red truck without a bed on it. So, but there was a ledge on the back of the cab. And as a kid, I was sitting. I remember there was a bag of groceries beside me on this ledge, and my feet were like hanging off, and I could see the road, and I could see the pumpkin and the inner workings, the axle, and I could see all that stuff, and I could see the road moving. Now, if he got in any kind of accident, if he stopped short, that wouldn't have been too bad. If he broke, I would have just hit the concrete. But if he got in any kind of accident where he kept rolling, I'm dead. But I'm just sitting on this ledge behind the cab, and I don't know how old I was. It had to be a long time ago, and I had to have been a little kid because I would think I would remember that more clearly. Um, but yeah, I told my brother about that, and he was like, "Holy shit!" I was like, "Yeah, I could see the road when we were driving." And I remember there was a bag of groceries. He picked up some stuff. There was like he used to put the groceries in those paper bags. I don't know if they still do that anywhere. They use plastic around here. And I had to hold on to the bag. Why it wasn't in the cab or why I wasn't in the cab, I don't even know. I don't even know if there wasn't any room for me or he just thought it would be a funny idea. I don't know. Asking me to figure out my dad is like asking me to figure out the universe, man. I can't figure that shit out. I don't know why he did what he did. He was a law unto himself. But yeah, you don't forget something like that. I don't remember the details about how old I was. I just remember there was like the cab, there was no bed, and then there was a ledge, and then I could see the road as we were driving. I could still see it in my head, the road as we were driving, and I could see the framework of the truck and stuff. Then he ended up building like a wooden bed for it, and then like high wooden sides and whatnot. And later on, tried to run people over with it in the street, but I've already covered that. He was a party. You know, that's one thing, man. If you want to be an interesting person, have a difficult childhood. Have a normal, safe, stable childhood. You're gonna be boring as fuck. Because if you have a messed up childhood, you can't express yourself properly. There's where your artists come from. There's where your creative people come from. There's from where you're really off the wall uh, people come from that have a whole different way of thinking. And like my my cousin that I excommunicated that's got the crack problem. She is funny as hell, and she comes up with the most messed up shit. And it's like I met a lot of people, and people that come from more stable environments. They can appreciate the humor, but they cannot create it. Uh, yeah, I remember telling like a joke at at I figured this out like at an early age, but I told a joke like in my 20s that was clearly a joke because nobody would ever do that or think about doing that. And then I had my best friend explain to me how that wouldn't work. And I'm like, no, I was just joking. That would set the house on fire and burn everything down. Yeah, I realized that. I was just making a joke. He's like, oh, I thought about it and I was like, well, he's had too good a life. He doesn't get it. Uh, yeah, they got that expression, from pain comes beauty. That is why comedy exists, is to deal with pain. So, it's why a lot of very funny people come from very fucked up backgrounds. Now, I'm not saying I'm a very funny person, but I'm not a completely unfunny person. My brother is freaking hilarious, but he also takes it way too far. Way too far, you know. But he's much funnier than I am. And I tell him that all the time, because he prizes the fact that he's um, just unbelievably creative and funny. Uh, he actually talked about like he went over to my. I hooked him up with my best friend for fishing as a fishing buddy because I couldn't go fishing with him no more, and he wanted to go fishing like on the spur of the moment. So he got a good relationship with the whole family now. So when he first met my best friend's daughter, she was listening to him talk, and she looked at her dad. He said, according to my brother, she said, "He's funny, isn't he? Isn't he? He's a funny guy." He's just like so. So he takes people by surprise, I guess. Yeah, I always felt like he could do a stand up or something like that if he wasn't didn't have PTSD and all the social anxiety from having murdered his father. That made him funny. It's a catch 22 because that's what makes him so funny in the first place. Is coming from that broken childhood, but that broken childhood also kept him from capitalizing on it. Like, I don't know, Norm Macdonald doesn't talk about his childhood too much, but he had like old school, like strict father, and uh, yeah, he's like not he doesn't drive. I mean, he never learned how to drive, you know, and it's just a weird guy, and all that had to come from somewhere. But he really is, and it keeps himself an enigma. But I don't know why I brought him up. I kind of train wrecked that. But Norm Macdonald's my favorite comedian, so it's always in the back of my head. Uh, Unfortunately, he's a Xanax addict and a bad one. So, you know, he's still very funny, but yeah, he's definitely in the addiction category. I mean, like I said, I saw him on his Norm Macdonald live that used to be available on YouTube. Pass the Xanax to Roseanne and her puppet. Try this, you know. And there's video on here of him blasted out of his mind on Xanax, which maybe I'll post a link to that. I don't know. I'll post a link to the Joseph Cook articles that I found, so in case you're curious, and I'll post a link to Norm Macdonald blasted. You know, he's a benzo victim. Which that's what I brought that up for is like my brother had like the social anxiety thing, and Norm Macdonald actually had a panic attack while he was doing Saturday Night Live, and it's live. So he had a live panic attack, but he was able to muddle through, and nobody really knew what the hell was going on. Uh, um, so that's how he ended up taking, he went to psychiatrists and stuff, and that's how he ended up, taking benzos and becoming a benzo addict, like a pretty bad one, which is a shame because I saw a show where he was not funny, which is a very rare thing for Norm Macdonald not to be funny, and he was definitely fucking slow. His mind was slowed down. He had too much Xanax in his system. But yeah. So, what have we established from this video? That I believe that if you whip slaves, they come up with beautiful songs. That if you have a broken childhood, that you're more likely to be funny. That I bought a brand new TV that I actually have to put something over top of. That I still have a dripping problem. That I have a maybe handyman that's going to come in here and help me get this place squared away. Then I have a doctor that's in jail right now, awaiting trial for raping an 11-year-old. That was my doctor that I went to see for 5 years. That put needles in my knee, and I went in there for my case of epididymitis, and thankfully did not have to drop trial for that. You know, he just took my word for it because I went to the emergency room, and yeah, I think that you got to go to the emergency room for something like that because you can't mess around because there's this thing called a torsion that can happen. The thing about torsion is you can't mix it up. This is a bad way to end the video talking about testicles, but you can't really mix up a torsion. Well, I think most of the people that listen to me are women, but just take my word for it. Guys are very touchy about their balls. So, in two different ways. But anyways, it's like anything concerning that area, we freak out. So like you go to the emergency room. If suddenly like one of them's not matching the other one, and like it's clearly swollen, if the first thing you do, you go through the stages of the grieving process, and you're like, no, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, it's not what I think it is, and then you're like, gradually, you're like mad. You go through the anger stage, and then you go through the denial. You go through the denial, then you go through the anger, and then you go through the acceptance, and then you go to the emergency room because you don't mess around with that. But with the torsion, I guess you get nausea and severe pain and stuff like that. And believe me, the pain is very severe when you have just plain old epididymitis. But he, I thought he wanted to look at it, so I was kind of nervous before that apartment appointment. And now, like, I would have been getting naked in front of a sexual predator, and it's like I never got dropped trial for that dude. And I didn't understand why he didn't want to look at it if he's talking about it and prescribing me drugs. So, I kind of just felt it was just weird, you know. Um, but I always go to the emergency room. I've had that. Why can't I remember the exact time that horrible thing happened to me? Maybe because I'm blocking it out, but at least twice. I had it when I was real young. I remember that. Um, I don't know what's making that noise. This I failed at plugging this in. And as usual, my video is very shoddy. But I got a sore finger. I hurt yesterday. But anyways, I was just like synopsisizing and making up words. Uh, what I have been talking about. I don't think. I'm sure I missed some things from yesterday. Oh, I missed a very interesting part, which is I found out from inside the medical community that there is incentivization. I'm making up a word, but they give them money, extra money for diagnosing coronavirus. So she was on the team conspiracy because she said it's not like that with anything else. You don't diagnose stuff and get extra payment for making a diagnosis. So yeah, so she was, like I said, she was on team conspiracies, and we talked about it. We had a long conversation for. There's nobody in there and no patients, and a lot of boredom, I guess. But I was like, well, it's a political year, so they could be dramatizing the whole thing to use as political capital, like i.e., look what's going on during Trump's administration. We got this coronavirus thing going out of hand, getting out of hand. It could be the pharmaceutical company, um, like um, just letting it all build to the point where like they come up with something, you know. And it could be also that they're exaggerating the dangers involved, and because they want people to take it seriously, which it should be taken seriously. But if you're healthy, the odds of you catching it and dying are just so slim. It's so slim. It's like it's like 0 point something that you could die from it. You can get real sick from it, but you ain't gonna die from it. The people that die from it are old people and or people with underlying health conditions. I'm in the over 50 crowd with heart problems and a chronic neurological disease, so I'm right at the top. So, I don't want it. But yeah, that was interesting because she's inside the medical community and she told me that they are incentivized. I think that's the word she used. And it's a word I can't pronounce correctly, and I don't use that word. But they're given incentives to diagnose COVID 19. And yeah, it's not that like medical people can't be wacky. I think we've already established that they can. And, but, yeah, she was dead serious, and she seemed like it's the first time I met her, but she didn't seem like a whack job, like somebody who spends their time thinking about the JFK assassination or something like that. Um, but yeah, that's about it. I mean, that should be a good hour block at least, if not more, of a chit chat. Um, I always feel like I'm leaving something out. Um, but yeah, yeah, I think I talked about most of what I talked about yesterday, except for with a very low energy vibe to it instead of uh, less pauses like that. There were less pauses like that yesterday, and I was like sharp and on point, and not so sharp and on point today. And I'm gonna do a lot of laying around. It looks like because my knee did not like my DIY effort with the TV, but I wasn't waiting. I was like, I'm getting this thing set up myself. It has legs on it, so it doesn't have like a base where I just like could put it on top of there and set it on top of the thing. I have to put these legs on it, but in order to install these legs, I would have to risk with a bad leg that's already tweaked, picking up the 31-pound DV, clearing off my whole bed. That's the instructions. Set it flat on a surface where you won't damage the TV screen, and then install the legs. Well, I'm not doing that. I'm not picking up this big. It's not that it's 31 pounds. It's that it's 58 inches. I'm not picking this big awkward thing up and then clearing off my bed and then putting it on my bed just to put these legs on there. So I spent a lot of time doing auto mechanic shit, like with these screws and a flashlight in my. I had a little flashlight in my mouth and like screwed in the legs to the bottom of it. Then I had to figure out how to balance it without legs on these little stands, which are about a third of as wide as it is. And like a couple of times, I had a little scare where it slid around a little bit, but I had a hold of it. But like it's like it was very tricky to do because the screw. Oh, I should do this on camera. The screws were recessed into the feet things, so it's got like 2 feet that are splayed out like that to support it. I just had it. I just put the styrofoam case that was protecting it from the box and just like leaned it up against the wall and then tested it. Like this isn't going anywhere, is it? It's not gonna fall. I'm not gonna come home to a broken TV. But anyway, so I spent a lot of time on the floor, like trying to do that because it was tricky without any help because of the screws were recessed inside the thing, so you had to like magnetize the screw and stick it onto the screwdriver, and then like blindly do it. And then I screwed the first screw in all the way, and I was like, well, now I don't know if I got it lined up to where the other screw holes are, and then unscrew it and then swirl it around and then guesstimate where it was a whole big thing. So like that didn't help matters because that means I got to kneel to get up, and so today not look like it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to do much. Um, what I could do is take pictures. Now that I finally, I think I can do that even with my phone broken. I haven't spoken about my broken phone. Oh, I have so much going on, don't I? Not really. I just talk about old shit and tell detailed stories. But my phone is doing that damn thing it did before because I had free minutes on it all through the COVID thing up until around July 1st. Okay, July 1st, my free minutes got cut off. And so I was just, my brother talked for 2 hours, you know. Uh, So I can use up 350 minutes in no time at all. So, I was talking to him, phone's dead, tried to call him back, and it says, hello, this is Assurance Wireless, because it's one of them government phones I got for free. It gives you a free $350 a month to use. It's called Lifeline Assurance. You may know about it, you may not. But anyways, um, I'm like, well, shit. It's going to cost me $5 to get the additional 350 minutes. So I paid the $5. I talked to my brother the next time for about 35 minutes, and it cut off and said I was out of minutes. I looked at the my account, and it said I have 350 left of 350 minutes. They didn't even subtract the 35 minutes, so my phone is fucking up. I went online and checked it out online, and it wasn't. It was telling me I needed minutes online too, so I don't know what the deal is, and I didn't want to investigate. I didn't want to investigate. Talk to somebody and troubleshoot my phone because I hate troubleshooting shit over. You hate that, I'm sure. Troubleshooting stuff over the phone is like, did you connect the Y with Z and cross the Q with the T and all that stuff, and like, there's this thing called yeah, it's a fucking nightmare. I don't like it. I do like the John Caparulo thing where he was having trouble with his TV, so he called the support team for his TV, and they asked him if his TV was plugged in, and he just said, "I will stab you in the head with a butcher knife." Nobody unplugs their TV. You only unplug your TV when you're moving. Of course, the TV is plugged in, you know. But they ask you like the most basic stupid shit first, It's just protocol. I felt that way before. We're like, I actually went through that experience where I called somebody and they're like, "Is your TV plugged in?" But it was about a computer. Is your computer powered up? And are the lights displayed on the computer? When I was troubleshooting my internet one time, and I was like, "Well, I've never thought of that." I didn't think about stabbing nobody in the head with the butcher knife, but the guy, "I will stab you." Over. Nobody likes to make those tech calls, and I'm not doing it over that phone. But like, I went through an experience where like I kept doing that, and I didn't have any choice because it was the only phone I had, and I had a lot of stuff going on in my life at that time. So I had to keep feeding this phone money, and it come up to like $35 for this free phone, and I bought unlimited minutes twice, and so the paradoxical nature of that, my drunken cousin in Florida could not get over. He's like, "No, you don't understand. They're unlimited minutes. You can't buy unlimited minutes twice." And I said, "Listen, in a normal universe, I would say that you are right, but this isn't a normal universe that we live in. This isn't a. I had to buy unlimited minutes twice, and I have to like, I call like all the people that don't text, because I can still text. I called them all, and I was like, "Look, man, I'm not going to be using this phone. We're not going to be able to talk." I called my brother, and he's like, "I'm not going to be able to talk to you until the 23rd." And I'm like, "Nope." And I called my best friend, who also I don't think texts, and I told him about the situation. And then I haven't talked to um, my cousin in Florida, who hates texting but can do it. But he's like, "I hate texting," and he don't text. And the thing of it is like, I have limited minutes on my backup phone, and that's that phone call that I made during this video. Is I had to call them and give them that number because they have the number to a broken phone, and find out when my aid worker is going to get here. And so that's why I had to do that, and I had to answer that phone call because it was important. I couldn't put it off. But I also don't want to buy. I don't want to spend $60 and add more minutes to that phone. I don't want to get that stupid other phone thing where I just keep feeding it money, and it's like, like I said, it's enough said when you buy unlimited minutes twice. You know, it's like I thought I was going to go back in time. That was so paradoxical. Yeah, I don't think my phone understands the meaning of the word unlimited. But yeah, that's enough. That's enough out of me. Um, anyways, I'll watch this back and I'm sure I'll be like, I'm never going to do that again because yesterday was better and all I had to do was move the cursor away from the stop button. Now I am moving it towards the stop button, and I am bidding thee adieu, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.